Should you buy long-term care insurance or should you self-insure? Welcome to Retire Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to help you create your dream retirement. Today, we're talking about long-term care insurance. Really, that's part of your long-term care plan. And the big question people ask me is, should I self-insure or should I buy long-term care insurance? Now, if you've read my book, Retire Today, we're going to talk a bit about my thoughts on long-term care insurance. And you'll notice in my book that I talk about this question, should I self-insure or buy the insurance? And I've just got a bone to pick with that question and the phrase self-insure. If you're looking at your long-term care insurance or your long-term care decision of what am I going to do here, you often think, do I self-insure? And I just can't stand the term self-insure. You cannot self-insure. Insuring means you're spreading out a small risk amongst everybody else out there, and you've all agreed to pay a little bit in a premium so that whoever comes in and needs the money because the risk happened to hit them, that's insurance. You can't self-insure. You can't insure with just one person or one family household unit. It doesn't exist. No one's ever self-insured in the history of mankind. You could self-fund, you could ignore the risk, but you cannot self-insure. I think for whatever reason, this thought of self-insurance almost feels like, I don't know, it feels like you've done something. And often you haven't. You haven't done the something. What you've done is said, I'm not going to buy the insurance. And you might choose to not buy the insurance. That's what we're going to talk about. You'll notice in the book where I talk about long-term care insurance that not everyone needs long-term care insurance. But I do think everyone needs a long-term care plan. And I'm going to give you 3 questions to think about when you're creating your long-term care plan. And perhaps you choose at the end of it to buy some sort of long-term care insurance. I'll give you my thoughts on long-term care insurance towards the end of today's episode. But the 3 questions to ask yourself when you're trying to create your long-term care plan, the first one is, where do I want the care to take place? The second is, who is going to take care of me? And the third is, how am I going to pay for the care? That's the order I think you go in. And let's go into each of those questions. So where do I want the care to take place? This is a bit of geography. This is a bit of the actual kind of facility. Are you somebody that lives close to your family or far away? I've got some friends who have parents that live 12 hours from here, and they're talking about, I wish my parents would come live closer to me. It'd be easier for me to help take care of them. And I can understand maybe what their parents are thinking, right? Their parents are thinking, this is the house I grew up in. You're the one that moved away. But you've got to think through, where geographically do I want my care to take place? Do I need to, ahead of time, perhaps move closer to family? Or if I live more in a rural area, do I need to move more towards an urban area that has more options that are out there? Where geographically do you want the care to take place? And then think of your housing. What type of facility? Do you want the care to take place in your home? I talk to a lot of people that say, I don't want to leave my house. I want to come out of my house feet first, right? I don't want to go to an institution, right? There's a lot of thoughts of kind of the sterile nursing home you might have seen in the movies. And that's understandable. It's more comfortable to actually get the care in your home. But what have you done to make your home more comfortable? If that's part of your planning, if I want to have my care take place in my home, take a look to see, what can I do to make this more likely? Right? Do I need to remodel the bathroom so I can add grab bars, so it's a 0 entry shower or tub situation? I just saw someone in our neighborhood. They've got a ramp now to get into their house, and it's like a steel, it's a metal ramp, so it's a temporary thing for this ramp, which is maybe good, maybe it's not. I've got another house where they redid the sidewalk so that instead of having the steps coming up to the front door, the sidewalk just gently slopes up to the front door. And so you've got to maybe plan ahead of time, right? You'd rather have these things in place ahead of time instead of an emergency type of situation of how am I going to get around my house? How am I going to make my life easier when I'm living at my house if I want to be living in my house? So think about with your long-term care plan, where do I want the care to take place? The second thing is, who do I want this care to come from? Who is going to take care of me? Am I relying on my family, or am I going to rely on a professional paid healthcare worker? I don't think either one of those is a wrong or right answer. But if you're relying on your family, I'd probably tell them that ahead of time, right? Not in a joking manner, like, oh, you're going to change my diapers 20 years from now. No, let's talk this out. Like, what is going to happen when I get to the point where maybe I do need some sort of care, and perhaps a good situation in a way, or trying to make the best of a situation. A lot of times when you're about 60 years old or so, you're heading towards retirement. Your parents are 85, 90, 95 if they're still here. And you get to see how are your parents reacting to this, of expecting a family member to take care of them or not wanting a family. I don't want you to have that burden, right? You might hear things like that. Oftentimes, when you think through of who do I want to take care of me, the default answer is nobody, right? A lot of times you think about your parents right now, where you think they need some sort of care. The doctors say they need some sort of care. You'd love it if maybe you could help them out even more, or perhaps you could have somebody come into the house to help them out a little bit more, but often they just don't want that help. And just think of that feeling that you have of, I wish mom or dad would do this, and apply that to yourself of who do I want to take care of me. And if it's your family members, make sure they know. And maybe you've made that move to say, I'm planning on being closer by to you so that you can take care of me. I took care of my folks. My parents took care of my grandparents, their parents, right? This is kind of the family way that we're going. And run it by your kids and think through, is this what you want to do? Is this an expectation you have of your children, of your family, to take care of you? I had an interesting quote I heard years back. I'm not sure who said it, but they were talking about what happens when you do have a professional healthcare worker helping you out. And perhaps you've moved to some sort of facility, perhaps you're getting the care at your house. But what they said was your family can still care for you without having to take care of you. A lot of times there's this thought, especially the younger generation, right? You're the one seeing the parents having these issues. You've got this guilt of, I'm not the one that's there every single day or able to do every single thing. You can still offer a lot of care to your parents without having to actually take care of them. And also understand too, if you're making your long-term care plan and your family's just not in a position to be able to help you, doesn't mean they don't care about you. Hopefully they are still caring for you, but make sure you've got a plan to provide for who's going to take care of you. Perhaps it's that professional paid healthcare worker. You've been saving your whole life for retirement, but how do you actually retire? My name's Jeremy Keil, and I take my clients through a 5-step retirement planning process so they can be ready for retirement. I put that whole process into my book, Retire Today, so that you can create your retirement master plan in 5 simple steps. If you're trying to create your retirement plan, head on over to jeremykeil.com, JEREMYKEIL.com, to buy your copy of my new book, Retire Today. Now we're going to get to the third part here, which is how are you going to pay for the care? And that's really the crux of the question. The question I don't like of should I self-insure or buy the insurance? I'd rather think of this as, should I buy the insurance or should I self-fund? Should I plan to be fully responsible for my long-term care health costs because I've self-funded? There's nothing wrong with self-funding. You're self-funding your housing situation. You're self-funding your taxes. There's no insurance for taxes or housing. And interesting enough, why I bring those up, your housing, your taxes, and your health costs. Those are the 3 biggest costs in retirement. The health costs are really the only ones that you can have some sort of insurance for? And so let's think through this. Do I want to self-fund, or do I want to buy the insurance? And I've had a lot of folks, you might have picked up on my talk, or as you're reading the book, Retired Today, but a lot of the people that ask me to work with them, kind of the engineering finance types, like the folks that are really good with spreadsheets. And they're often come to me with spreadsheets of, let me try to figure this out. I want to figure out, am I better off buying the insurance or better off doing the self-funding? And I just have to tell them, you're looking for a math answer, and there's absolutely no math answer on which one is better. There's no math answer on if the insurance is a better deal or self-funding is a better deal. Here's what happens. Insurance is a better deal if you use it. Self-funding is a better deal if you don't use it. That's just the way that it works. The insurance companies have figured this out of what is the proper pricing on the long-term care insurance, and they've got thousands of lives, thousands of people that they can spread the risk about. You don't, which means it's a yes or no. It's an A or B. It's a 0-1. It's either a better deal to buy the insurance only if you use it. It's a better deal to self-fund if you don't need it. So don't try to find a math answer, because you'll never find one. I suppose if you somehow find one, if you find a math answer, email me, podcast@keilfp.com. I'd love to see your math answer on which one is better. But here's what I encourage you to think about when you're making this decision, self-funding or buying the long-term care insurance. Think about instead, not the math answer, but what makes you feel worse? Would it be worse if I bought the insurance and never used it? Right? Is that the worst thing that could happen? Or would it feel worse if I actually needed care and I didn't have the insurance? Just take a minute. Think of those kind of mind thoughts. Like, hey, how would I feel? How do I feel about my parents and what they've gone through? How do I feel about maybe healthcare costs in the past that I've had, or car and home insurance situations I've had? In the past, did I feel worse because I had the insurance and never got anything out of it? Maybe self-funding is better for you. Or did I feel worse because I had this bill? I saw my parents, my aunts and uncles, they went to some sort of facility. They had this huge monthly bill. And I thought, I wish they had the insurance. Well, if that's you, maybe buying the insurance is a better solution. I'll tell you what's not the solution, and it's the one that most people end up doing. They just ignore the problem. They think through, should I buy the insurance? I'm not going to do that. I'll just self-insure. But they don't make a plan for how are we going to pay for the long-term care insurance. And I'd encourage you to, if you're a self-funder, are you a long-term care insurance type of person, or are you a self-funder? If you're going to say, I'm going to self-fund, then I would go ahead and create what's called a long-term care fund. It's an idea Christine Binns was sharing in her book, How to Retire. It's where she said, at least in her book, maybe she's changed her mind, but she said that's her preferred method for her, where she would just prefer to kind of carve out some of her retirement funding and say, if I need the care, right? Because the long-term care need is an if. That's what insurance is for. It's there to take care of an if, right? If I need the care, I've got the self-funding set aside. I know where to go if I need it. And if I don't need the care, I just had extra money. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Maybe I had extra money for when I'm older. Maybe my family had extra money. It all kind of worked out. But have that long-term care fund. Just as a quick example, imagine you have 1.2 million in your retirement funds, whatever they are, Roth, traditional, regular accounts. Instead of setting up your plan where you have 1.2 million, how much income can I generate from that? Set up your plan perhaps with 1 million. How much income can I generate off the 1 million? And then what's kind of ignore the 200,000. Say, well, this is my long-term care fund. I'll invest it. I'll keep it there in case I need it. That's a thought of way that you can do that. Another way that you can do that, I was just doing this with somebody a week or two ago, is they're liking the idea of the self-funding. And what I put into the program, because a lot of the retirement planning softwares figure if you start out with zero, you built up a decent amount of money, and at the end of time, you had more than zero, you won. And instead of saying zero was the worst case scenario, we put in 200,000 is the worst case scenario. 200,000 in today's dollars, because you're 60 years old. And by the time you get to 85, 90, 95 and need it for long-term care, you'll need much more than 200,000. So 200,000 in today's dollars is what we said. That's the lowest you can go. So that's how we kind of set aside this long-term care fund. Make sure I always have at least 200,000 in today's dollars available for me in case I need it for the long-term care. That's how we went about self-funding. What you don't do is you don't ignore the problem. Now, here's my thoughts. Here's my thoughts on which way to go. I presented you Christine Benz's thoughts. Her preference is not to have the insurance, and I get it. Insurance is expensive, and you don't know if you're going to use it or not. And in a way, often you feel like if I buy the insurance and I end up not using it, it was a waste, right? A lot of people feel that way. They say that to me about long-term care insurance. My question back to them often is, okay, was it a waste when you did not have a car accident? Or are you been putting in $1,000 plus to your car insurance for years upon years? Is it a waste if you don't use your car insurance? No, it's a great thing. But for some reason, we feel like long-term care insurance, it's a waste if I don't use it, which is why I've got a preference towards actually having the insurance. It sounds counterintuitive, but here's my thought. When you're 60 years old and you start putting money towards your long-term care insurance, you're thinking, this better pay off someday. And then later on down the road, when you're 80, 85, 90, 95, when you're down the road and your kids say, you need a little bit of help, Mom. When you go to the doctor and the doctor says, you're having a tough time, you need a little bit of help. And the natural thing, next thing, you need a little help, right? No one wants that little bit of help. No one wants to pay for that little bit of help. But if you've got the encouragement, if you've got the need to get a little bit of help, and you've been paying for the insurance for years upon years upon years, you're going to say it's about time the insurance pays off and you're actually going to go out and get the help that you need, which is why I got a little bit of preference, right? I tell you my thoughts. I've got a preference towards, I feel like the results are better when you get to that situation. It's a tough situation. You've got the health issues going on. Now all of a sudden you got to go from being independent to needing a little bit of help. It's already tough to begin with. If you've kind of taken the money aspect, if you've taken the thought off the table of now I got to open my checkbook, and instead you say, finally, the insurance company's going to pay me back for all the premiums I've been giving them, you're more likely to actually get the help that you need when you need it. That's my thoughts on long-term care insurance. Email me your thoughts at podcast@keilfp.com. You can head on over to jeremykeil.com to get the book Retire Today. Create your retirement master plan in 5 simple steps. That is JeremyKeil.com. And thank you for listening to the Retire Today podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions. Hi, I'm Jeremy Keil. If you'd like to learn how my team can help you get more income, pay less in taxes, and avoid big retirement mistakes, head on over to keilfp.com. That's KEILFP.com.